Ha ha ha, Mark, I finally got him to admit it. I had to play Ring Around the Posy for quite a while just to get him to admit this. Well, first, let me just tell you what the question was. The first question was, there's only two questions on this one. I said to him, as a non-random language-based code, DNA, this infers a mind that created it. Are there any other alternative explanations that can explain why the DNA code is a type of language? To which he said, there are some alternative explanations for why the DNA code appears to be a type of language. One possibility is that it is a consequence of the physical and chemical properties of the molecules that make up DNA. For example, the specific chemical bonds between nucleotides in DNA may naturally lend themselves to forming sequences that can be read like a code. Another possibility is that the language-like properties of DNA are an emergent property of natural selection, which we already know is not true because it can't happen randomly. He admits that. In this view, the sequences of DNA that persist are passed down through generations are those that are most fit or beneficial for the organism, and this process can result in patterns that resemble a language. However, neither of these explanations fully account for the complexity and specificity of the DNA code, which suggests that a mind or intelligence may have been involved in its creation. Wah, 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 wah. So then I said, doesn't the immense complexity and specificity of non-random DNA lend to that of a complex and superior mind to create it? And he says, the complexity and specificity of DNA certainly suggests the involvement of an intelligent mind in its creation. Wah, 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 wah. However, it is important to note that this conclusion is not based on a direct empirical evidence, but on inference and interpretation of the available data. While some scientists may interpret the complexity of DNA as evidence for the existence of an intelligent creator, others may argue that it is a result of natural processes such as natural selection acting on random mutations over time, which we already discussed is not possible. Ultimately, the question of the origin of DNA is a matter of scientific inquiry and open to ongoing research and debate. Just thought I'd clear that up for you, Mark.
Hey, Don. I'm out riding bike with the dogs. Good stuff with ChatGPT. You got him all right. He also seems not to understand the idea that random means natural processes. He seems to think that there's some natural processes which aren't random. And I think you pointed that out yourself and made it clear. What else? About so you got him, and you're very intelligent, and it took you a lot of intelligence to out-argue him. But think of the average person or the average liberal facing these answers by ChatGPT. Your average and below average mind will not be able to think like that and reveal the weaknesses. And this reminds us of why it was created, we think. We think it was created as part of the end times process of great delusion. About the debating comments you made, I had a thought come up because you were asking ChatGPT what are effective methods of debate, and he gave some answers, and you gave some modifiers and got him to change his answer a bit and that type of thing. But I would also suggest that when you're in a debate, you were speaking in the most general terms. And I would ask or point out that when you have a debate, sometimes in the debate, the two sides are very entrenched, even the audience members. In that case, I would think you're trying to convince the swing voters, or you're trying to convince the convincible, which is different than if you have a debate where most of the people watching don't have an opinion either way and they're unclear. That would be slightly different. And in the political realm, it seems that one-liners and gotcha and stuff like that matters, apparently. I guess it does. Remember Lloyd Benson and Dan Quayle? And Dan Quayle said, I knew John Kennedy or whatever, and whatever. And Lloyd Benson said, Dan Quayle talked about Kennedy. Lloyd Benson said, I knew Kennedy and met him. And Dan Quayle, you are no John Kennedy. Ooh, wow. Talk about a schoolyard insult. Oh, really? I'm no John Kennedy? Oh, I didn't know that. I was up here thinking I was John F. Kennedy incarnate, and so was everybody else. I'm glad you disabused them of that. What a childish thing, and yet, that scored big points. So, I think depending on what the subject is, and depending on who the audience is, your debate tactics may change or be tweaked somewhat.